We are back with working on the Nissan Gloria. In the last video, we got all of the panels that we needed off of the parts half cut. We spent a few days removing all the spot welds and eliminating all of the pieces. And this is what's left of it. Now the next step is preparing all of the metal to be test fitted onto the car. So I'm going to spend the next few hours probably grinding off all the adhesive and the paint. That way everything can be nice and form fitted correctly. Now, since I did drill out the spot welds, there are going to be bumps that stick up. You can kind of see right there. So I'm going to be utilizing this flappy disc to attempt to smooth down those high points. And then I'm going to use the wire wheel, I have a backup just in case, to grind off the adhesive and the paint. We have a lot of metal to prep here. And that's just on the chassis. Then we have the trunk pan, the rear clip, quarter panel. Doesn't sound like a lot, but sitting here all day just getting all this prepped. Oh man, it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a nice gloomy day as well. Something about gloomy days like this are just so unmotivating, but we still need to get work done. We still need to finish this car by Thanksgiving. Can we do it? I don't know. We're gonna try our best though. I also picked up this very special piece, a mask. Since I'm going to be grinding all day, I figured this would be a good opportunity to get a respirator for my health. Because sometimes after these grinding sessions, I'm just blowing my nose and it's straight black for hours, sometimes days. And you know, that can't really be good. Imagine how much of that is getting into your lungs. After over a day of grinding metal, we finally have most of the panels prepped. I say most because we still haven't received the driver's side quarter panel, but that's okay because we have this half of a quarter panel that we can use to align all the other panels to the car. I also went ahead and vacuumed up all the debris in here. Looks way cleaner. A clean workspace is a good workspace. So I guess the very next step now is to start test fitting everything and making sure it fits on the car. And that's a pretty exciting stage for a build. Now, before I can start throwing parts on the car, I need to trim this wheel well. This is the new one. And this is the one that we cut off of the car. I cut the one off the parts car generously because I didn't know how far back I needed to trim this one. So when we line them up, there's gotta be a better way to do this. So this is too long. This is the new one. This is the original. So we need to match it because we have this seam here that we need to match up. Otherwise, it's going to overlap all the way, and that's not going to be easy to weld, and it'll be sloppy. I ended up test fitting the wheel well, the new wheel well, onto the car itself because it was a lot easier to line up. And I'm noticing I cut this like an idiot. There's a sliver missing here. Look at how crooked this cut is. And that's the problem with rushing projects. I hate rushing stuff. If you're wondering why I'm rushing, partially rushing, is because Omar's neighbors called and complained to the county that he had too many cars here. So now everyone has to rush their projects here and get them out of here. As you can see, mine is basically the last one here, and he gave me until Thanksgiving to finish this up. I'm really hoping that we can get it done, but it's quite the task to do all by myself. This is not impossible. I'm still gonna try my best, but when you end up having to rush, you end up with stuff like this. That's not the biggest deal. I can still fill that in and make a little piece, but it's not ideal. It's not working smart. This is gonna be a reference, so I'm gonna dot it and dash it because the last time I did this, I ended up cutting on that line on accident and it was way too short. Not a good idea. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, once I cut it off, I can probably flip it over and use it to fill in this corner. Geometry says it'd be the same angle, right? I don't know, someone do the math. That was crazy. So this is all we need to trim off from this outer wheel well. You can see the dash lines here and on top. I'm gonna cut just below that. That way I'll have some overlap between the two panels. It'll be a lot easier and cleaner to weld. Next order of business. We need to test fit the rear clip onto the car. Now the way I took this off of the parts car is I drilled out the spot welds enough where the floor pan can flex up high enough to free up the frame rails. Because without doing that, you have to cut the frame rails. So we didn't want to cut the frame rails. So I'm thinking I'm going to try and slide it in and then jack up the rear end to try and level it. I don't know. We'll see how this works. The trick here is trying to slide the frame rail under. Yeah, so the frame rail goes under and then the floor pan goes over. So it kind of hugs the chassis. So we got that side in, but now we need to try and move that side up. The rear end is in. It's not exactly in the correct spot because it still has plenty of wobbling around. A lot of play, but there are some indicators that we can use to line this up correctly. First of all, it looks like it needs to go higher up. So these line up with that subframe brace to go from this side of the frame rail to the other. And then we have everything on the side, of course, in the corners. That'll be nice to line up correctly. But what I wanted to do to line this up correctly is install the half of the quarter panel, and then we'll have to test fit the other quarter panel on the passenger side. But when we slide this guy on here, that'll force all of these seams to line up in the correct spot. Now, I don't necessarily need to install this right now because I'm just doing a very rough mock-up. I still want to take everything off and apart and then spray weld-through primer on all the places I'm not going to be able to see ever again. My main goal was just to slide this on and make sure that it is workable and that nothing is out of whack. So far everything looks pretty good. These will line up no problem. And then the frame rails will have to like jack up, I guess, when we weld those in place. Try and wipe off all of the dust that is on all the panels, any metal debris. I've already vacuumed it, so luckily there's not going to be too much that's laying on here, but just to get a nice clean surface before we spray some weld-through primer on here. The last thing you want to do is spray some bare metal flakes inside of your primer. That would not be good. Now the weld-through primer I'm going to be using is called Steel It. I used the same stuff on the 240 rebuild. I didn't notice any issues while welding through this stuff, so I'm going to use it again. And I feel like this stuff got a lot more expensive because it's almost $40 a can now. 40 for one can. It's pretty insane. It does spray out extremely thick, so that's pretty nice. A little bit will go a long way. While we're waiting for this paint to dry, someone mentioned in the last Gloria video that I should take off the speakers from the half cut. Let's see what they look like. Yeah, they do. Are these Kenwoods? Not actually sure. Oh, it was a Kenwood. They weren't plugged in though. Well, that one's plugged in. Well, if anyone needs this half cut for parts or pieces, please let me know ASAP. I'm gonna need to dispose of it soon. This would be a great candidate to use for a rear wheel drive swap. I'd love to use it, but I don't have a garage or a shop yet, so I have nowhere to put it. So if you want it, let me know. You can even just bring it straight to the scrapyard if you want. Get like 30 bucks for it or something, I don't know. I really wanted to wait until my Gloria was done to get rid of this, but again, we don't really have that luxury, so it's gotta go. While the paint's still wet, so I'm gonna let that dry overnight. While we're letting it dry, we can go get some stuff done on the 300ZX build. We are finally visiting Payton again. He's the Z parts plug. He basically hooked me up with most of the random odds and ends on this car. Him and Caden have been real clutch. This is his 300ZX. You can find him here. But let's take a look at a properly set up twin turbo Z before we get into what we're doing here. You painted and shaved this all yourself too, right? Oh, yeah. Dude, much respect. Too clean. You can eat off of this thing. You said you got your interior redone too, right?
Yeah, I did. I definitely got my seats redone, you know. Had to go baller mode, you know.
Baller mode? What we do? What we do?
You know, you can check it out.
Let's see, let's see. Alcantara, you said?
Oh, yeah.
Custom? Dude, this is clean. Matching back seats. Hold on, let me turn my little light on. Damn. Dude, I don't even want to know how much you paid. Red stitching too? Come on.
Yeah.
That's insane. Too good. Good choice. Yeah. Mint trim, that's a flex. One can dream, right? So we're visiting Payton to drop off some goodies. He let me borrow his blue seats for a long time. Since he's the parts plug, he's getting these wheels and front suspension. We're finally saying goodbye to the blue seats. Well, I packed everything except my new carpet to throw in here. So this is all we're gonna do for tonight. We are back from Payton's. Car is still pretty filthy. And we have one black seat in here. I couldn't fit the other one. Plus there's no point, I have to take out this carpet anyways. This is where I left the carpet, right on the storage unit 240. So let's start ripping apart some of the interior and then get the stinky carpet out. I would offer this up if someone wanted to have it, but honestly, it's so smelly, you don't even want this. I'm just gonna toss it straight in the trash. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to pull off the dash bar frame from his parts car because it was still a fully intact car, and that would have taken an hour or so. Plus it was full of parts, so we'll do that another time. But the carpet is my priority right now. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be mostly screws, Phillips screws, and 10mm bolts. We're gonna have to take off the center console, the seat again, the trim that goes around the carpet, and of course, this little floor trim piece. I don't know if I have to take this off. I might. I don't know. Gotta keep these screws safe. Shout out to Payton. He brought me these matching screws because I had some mismatch stuff here before and it doesn't really look the best. These are nice and flush. They're specific for that panel. Okay. Let's take this guy off next. Is there a screw on here or does it just pull out? No screw. Nice. Floor mats. We gotta take off this dash trim too. The 300ZX is so strange with how many pieces of the interior there are. This whole car is strange, let's be honest. Everything is so much harder to do on this car compared to any other 90s Nissan or 90s Japanese car I've ever worked on. With most cars, you just have the dash and then a center console. 2 pieces. We got a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, an under tray. This piece comes off. You have to take off all of this as well. Gotta love these cars, right? It's the pain that makes you love them. Damn, I just realized I have to take off the shifter. This was a pain to get the Gretty logo this straight. I had to crank this thing on here. Oh, shoot. Remove our super secure radio with the carbon trim. This is actually the only aftermarket piece this car came with. Pretty wild. Okay, we're getting somewhere. More screws exposed. Oh, there's another one there. So much hardware for this. Don't tell me. Okay, there we go. Oh, I forgot this e-brake boot is buckled in. Fancy. Oh yeah, that's another thing. This carpet was already shredded. It was all peeling off. All right, shouldn't be much left. I think I can start yanking it out at this point. Gross. Now I should probably vacuum out whatever is in here before I throw in the new carpet. Last night it ended up getting too dark and it honestly started raining, but I still was able to swap out the carpet. It smells great in here, much better. And I was gonna go ahead and throw in the passenger seat right now, but I just remembered I'm gonna have to transport my welder to Omar's because the next step is welding the Gloria, which is so exciting. And I was checking the weather forecast and I realized that it's supposed to snow tomorrow. That is the worst news ever. And it's already getting colder each day, and I forgot that I put distilled water in my 240 because coolant is not allowed at the track. So before it snows and before it gets below freezing, we're gonna swap that out. Because if you don't swap it out, then your hoses and your block will freeze solid. That can cause the block to crack. Anything that there's water in, it can break. That's because when water freezes, it expands. And I just remember the 240 is way too low to jack up, so we're gonna have to drive on some wood blocks. And honestly, I haven't driven or started this car since the drift event. I think that was over a month and a half ago. And that is because we got in a crash at the drift event. Still haven't fixed it, unfortunately. Don't have the time right now. As you guys know, the Gloria is the main project right now since we have to get that car out of there. Well, let's make the least amount of mess as possible. This is always a mess, let's be honest. Just explodes coolant everywhere. All right, guess it's all drained. We missed quite a bit here from splashing. Pour this in here and go for a test drive. I honestly miss driving this car. I'm pretty excited right now. It's also been a while. Let's check the oil. I'm sure it's fine. This does not burn any oil on me. Yeah, it looks great. And if you guys have been watching for a while, you know I share a battery between this 240, the 300ZX, and my Integra. I think it's kind of funny that I still don't have a separate battery for each car. It's not like I can drive all of them at once, you know? I totally forgot I put underglow on this thing. Can hardly see it though because it's so light out. Yeah, let's try this. Really don't see these two cars next to each other often enough. Oh, that dent is so bad. Hopefully we'll fix that soon. Roller. Don't try this at home. Man, I love driving this car. I always end up taking it to the same spot just to look at it. And it's right here by these power lines. Just a cool little spot, I guess. I don't have an e-brake because I have a hydro. And I want to keep the car running and I don't want it to roll away. So, put this little guy into there. It's taking a lot out of me not to kick this out because I want to so bad. Man, I love this car. Around 1 year ago is the first time I got to drive this car since it was T-boned. Well, at least straightened. And this is where I took it, right here. Pretty cool to bring it back here, although unfortunately not in one straight piece anymore, but just part of the game. That was really fun to cruise around again. I probably should have taken out the welder before I pulled the car back into the garage. And another thing, I bought a new light. If you guys remember, actually I can show you right now. These lights that I bought for the garage create lines in the display. And it's because this camera doesn't have the setting to adjust the frequency. You can see them right there, like the horizontal black lines. So this other light that I got is a non-flicker, so that should solve the problem. I'm actually going to bring this to Omar's because with the sun setting at around 5:30, 6 o'clock, that's calling it a day a little too early. Plus there's not the greatest lighting there to begin with, so anything to continue the wrenching for longer. Got to load it into the work truck. All right, loaded up. Now I do film junkyard videos in between some of the Gloria videos, and that is an attempt to buy myself some time so that you guys get a full video that actually gets stuff done, because I don't think you guys would want to see me just sit there and grind metal all day long. Next stop, Omar's house. And Omar's house is not close. It is not just around the block. We are all unloaded and ready to start the next video. So this is where we're gonna end this one. Don't forget to drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.